y'all? It's your boy J.H. Gibbons here.
And I'm Will C.
And welcome to yet another episode of the Achromous podcast, episode 68. We want to thank you for joining us this beautiful Sunday. If you are listening to us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, we thank you for joining us. If you are watching our beautiful smiling faces at this point, you're probably looking at us on YouTube. And if you're visiting YouTube at this time, here's what I want you to do. I want you to hit that like button. I want you to hit that subscribe button. And please do me a favor, hit that notification bell so the next time that you hop on this app and you scroll down that feed, one of the first videos you see will be from the Achromous podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, most of all,
it is free to do every single one of those things Jay just said, guys. Please make sure to like our content. If you're really digging what we're giving out, these gems that we're dropping to you each and every week, please be sure to do so, guys. Hit that subscribe button, smash our content. Let us know that you're rocking with us all the way, guys.
Please do that. Do all of that. I'm not going to say that word, but y'all need to do this, man, because getting this out here, getting these gems out here every single Sunday, it weighs on us, man. We got a lot of topics we blow through. We got a lot of gems that we put out there. So way is a vault of gems that come to you for absolutely no cost. That won't be that way forever. So while it is like this, you guys need to dive on in, apply some of the things you hear to your life, and then give us some feedback. Look, Will C and I, we love to share stories. We love to hear stories because it motivates us. And as long as you're motivated, we're motivated, and we're still building this community that we have here. All is well, all is right in the world. What a week it has been, Will C.
Yeah, that's putting it lightly. It has been quite filled with adversities. But we're here, happy to get here in one piece. The grace of God, we're here if you're able to see this episode. So, give the praise where it's needed. And we're just thankful to see you and that you're here right along with us on this ride we call life. And just trying to appreciate every step along the way. Yeah.
Absolutely. And look, I mean, again, as you know, we are trying to build this community. We're trying to go big with it because you can't go small out here in these streets, man. So an update from the website or on the website, we're still booming, man. We're still looking for that May 31st launch. It's only a couple weeks away. So if you have not done so already, I want you to type in achromousfitness.com. And what you'll see is this timer. It'll tell you exactly how long you have until the achromousfitness.com website is launched. And as I said before, this is the central hub for anything Achromous related. So if you had any questions about how we got started, about what our name is, about what exactly we're doing, and how we serve our community, that is the spot that you go to. We'll have all of our podcast episodes on there. In fact, they're on there now. We'll have everything fitness related, including blogs to help you guys get through any sort of fitness regimens you're trying to go through. And even on the mental side of things, we'll give you some advice. We'll tell you exactly what we've done that has been able to work. So this will be the central hub for everything Achromous. So we want you guys to hop on. All you have to do right now is you type in achromousfitness.com. That is achromousfitness.com into your feed, whether you're on Google or Bing or Yahoo. I don't know if anybody still uses AOL, but if you do, type it in there. What you'll see is that countdown. You'll have an opportunity to add your email to that list as a subscriber. We want you to be part of this community. We want to keep building this community because we believe that this community has strength, and anyone in this community knows that they matter.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This is why we do it. We're dedicated to it, and just want to make sure everyone's growing on this journey. We talk about it all the time. No matter what we're dealing with or what we're going through, we're here to be better, to motivate each other, to help one another, and the content that we're going to drop to you real soon is going to do all those things. It's going to help keep you uplifted as it's keeping us uplifted, and you're keeping us uplifted as well. So guys, we need you to make sure that you're staying on the ride. Make sure that you're giving us the feedback to let us know that what we're talking about and what we're delivering with these gems is right on the money for you. Because its time is precious and important. So we want to make sure that we're using the time that we're given in a way that's beneficial for you and for us.
Yep, absolutely. We'll see. And look, we've been on the socials for quite some time now. It's of course, 68 episodes with this podcast, but beyond that, we have been building out the fitness side for quite some time. We've been doing it on Instagram. We've been doing it on Facebook. We've been doing it here on YouTube if you're watching us. Of course, for the podcast, it's been Spotify. And for some of those apps, some of those platforms, we've been getting some really great reach and some really great numbers. But after a while, specifically on Instagram, and I'm not bad mouthing them at all. But I have noticed a tremendous decrease in our reach, a tremendous decrease in engagement, likes, whatever it is. I've seen a decrease in what we are able to put out there. And it isn't necessarily that the content got worse. As you guys see, we've got lights. You can see us, right? Got to post so you know who we are. We've been out here for quite some time now. We've been able to run ads so that we can get out to a wider audience that we have now instead of some of the organic traffic that we've been trying to get. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, as we always do, we're very truthful and honest on this podcast. It's been tough. It's been very tough to get some of the feedback that we have been getting. And quite frankly, there have been some people out there that say they've never heard of our podcast. They've never seen it. They don't know where it's come from. And they don't know how to get to us. And of course, look, we're still in the early phases of this, right? We've moved beyond year one, but we're still young, right? We're still growing in this whole podcast community. And as you guys may know out there are over 1 million different podcasts. So there's no shortage of content that you can get from any other source. And don't take this the wrong way, but we are thankful that you're able to join us and listen to us. Whoever you are out there, we thank you for joining us each and every Sunday. But I think going into this episode 68, I think there are times where our message is not able to get out there based on the algorithms, based on those moderators who may be listening to some of this content and deeming it necessary for others to be able to hear it. Case in point, I mean, you guys are no stranger to social media, I'm sure, if you're hearing this. So you've heard that in the past couple of weeks, a gentleman by the name of Elon Musk, a billionaire, the richest billionaire, the richest man in the world, he has gotten an interest into Twitter. And it's not just an interest from the standpoint of it being, I like Twitter as an app. I like to use it. I'm pretty familiar with it. I like to be able to connect with my community because that's what he's been doing. But it got to a point where he felt like a lot of creators were being silenced because of the content that they were putting out there was not necessarily the content that those who have the upper hand, those who have leverage, want to hear. And tonight, on today's episode of the Achromous podcast, we do want to dive in on, should there be a limit to free speech? Now, Elon Musk calls himself the free speech absolutionist. I believe that's what he's going after. If not, that's not the word. I don't know what it is. But let's take a step back really quick and try to really understand exactly what free speech is. So, guys, by definition, free speech is the right to express any opinions without censorship or restraint. Now, we can kind of parse that a little bit. So let's actually do that right now. The right? In society in general, we all have that right, at least here in the US. I can't speak for any other country out there that might be listening. You may have a bit more of a restriction than we do here in the States, but we are allowed to say whatever we want. That doesn't mean that there is no consequence to what you say. Obviously there is, but we are able to express our opinions. And at least within the last few years, we were able to do that without being ridiculed or shamed, even if what we were saying, I say we, because we always want to be honest. We always want to tell it how it is, but those people out there too, the others, right? As long as you're able to express yourself, you should have every right to do so. As long as you're not promoting violence, as long as you're not promoting hate, as long as you're not saying something incredibly racist, you should be able to say what you want. And I fully agree with that. But then as you begin to understand what the levels of those things are, right? Hate speech, violence, racism, if there are certain things that are deemed hate or violence or racist, then there seems to be this sort of, dare I say, moving target of what should be allowed and what shouldn't be allowed. And right now, I know I was talking about society in general because that is separate than some of these platforms that are obviously controlled by somebody, right? Some sort of entity controls, speech, right? It is what it is. It's a company, right? Twitter is a company. Facebook, IG, they're all companies. WhatsApp, they're a company. So in essence, they can do whatever they want, right? Should we voice our opinion against some of the things that they've done over the past few years? Absolutely. I think it's well in our right to do so, but it is in their right as a company to do what they want. And I think also the fact that these companies are allowed in other countries that do not have that freedom of speech should tell you that yes, these companies can do what they want. We of course have the Constitution, which is different than other countries. So we have that freedom to express ourselves, and we should take advantage of it fully. But when it comes to limiting the amount of free speech that we have on apps, I think there's a bit of a gray area there. So at least on my end, right? As a personal story, I'm sure you guys know Donald Trump is still banned from Twitter. There are other people as well who have been outspoken, whether I agree with it or not. They're completely banned. They're probably not going to come back, even with Elon Musk taking the reins. But it goes without saying that if you were somebody who was on board with some of these people being silenced, whether it's Donald Trump, let's say you voted Democrat, you can't stand Trump's guts. Understandable, cool, I get it, right? Let's say you're, somebody else who got banned, you couldn't stand what they were saying because you felt like it was violent against your cause, or you felt like they weren't standing with you, they weren't an ally, so to speak. Power to you, but that power should not go to that entity. That power should not be on Twitter. It shouldn't be Twitter's objective to say this is deemed acceptable based on these broad rules that we have, and this shouldn't be. Because then again, if you're turning something into, if you're turning an entity or a platform like that into something that's political, that means that it's always going to lean one side, it's always going to favor one side, and it wouldn't favor the other. Another example would be sort of, I guess I would call it the antithesis of Twitter, which would be Truth Social. It's the app that, of course, Donald Trump was, I think he was involved with the development. I'm sure he didn't develop it himself, but I know he was involved with the app, and he still is. And so I took it upon myself, Will C, to dive into this app because I really wanted to see what it was all about. I was actually on that guest list or whatever prior to it launching because I wanted to be one of the first to use it. So I got it, I opened it, I've been through it, and I deleted it since. And it wasn't because I was disagreeing with what a lot of people on there were saying, because again, if we're talking truth, now what I've been seeing, we'll see, especially with these sort of apps that are coming out, whether it's that or Parler or Twitter, everybody wants to be the bastion of truth. They want to be the truth leader, but then they're defining what truth means to them. So it is no longer facts. It is no longer truth. It's our truth. It's the truth we're willing to accept. So when I was on the Truth Social app, every single aspect of that app was conservative. So now what you're seeing is that they are blending conservatism with truth, when that should never be the case. Truth should not have a political identity. It should not have a societal identity. Truth should be what it is. Truth should be truth. And that's one thing that I've been seeing when it comes to, I guess you would say, free speech on apps, because I feel as though if I were to go on Truth Social today and I said something like what Black Lives Matter or LGBTQ or whatever, because I feel as though that might be something that many conservatives don't agree with, I don't think I would be welcomed on that app. I don't think I would be, I wouldn't be lauded. I would be shut down immediately. However they do it on that app. And again, that doesn't show free speech, right? That isn't what free speech is supposed to be. if I am allowed to express myself, by definition, again, the right to express any opinions without censorship or restraint, technically I could say what I want without you being the person to restrain me, meaning you're banning me or you're preventing my tweets or my posts or whatever platform I'm using, you're preventing that from getting out into a larger audience. And then you're blaming it on the algorithms or you're blaming it on something else rather than it being the fact that there's a certain type of speech that you consider free and anything else that goes against that, you were no longer welcoming in. So we'll see. I mean, I'd love to get your take on what free speech looks like to you and how you think these social media platforms have taken this sort of free speech ride with their user base.
Well, I guess, simplistically, freedom of speech is the ability to say whatever you think or you feel, right? I think a lot of the times what's happening with that is the fact that it's not so much thought put into what's being said for people say things, right? For words are spoken, and it's becoming misconstrued in a gray area as what most folks would consider to be like right or wrong about what they're talking about. So a lot of the times everyone has something to say, but really only want to be heard. They don't want to take the time to, just kind of dissect what someone is giving to them, being receptive to listening. And we miss a lot of opportunities as a whole when we do that. So the tricky part with social media a lot of the times where I get a platform Twitter, so this is something I use personally, but with any platform you can publicly post is that once you've stated what's been put out there, the conception is that thought has been put behind what you said prior to posting. So it should be looked at for face value based on what you're delivering. Now, we know a lot of people say things and do things without actually understanding or putting the time, effort, research into what they're talking about. But I feel as though if people would be more mindful in their approach to it, in first and foremost, being willing to be receptive to being willing to be brought to any and everything in subject unbiasedly, then it would be more appreciated throughout when people just talk in general. Because you got a lot of people who want to become trendsetters, and you got a lot of people who want to ride those waves and hop on to what's the next big thing, or what's the next big subject, or what's the next catchy thing, or what's the next political gain, or what's the next thing. But we're not really taking the time to process and to learn how to properly, express ourselves. And that's a lot of the issues, a lot of the times that I see with the freedom of speech is the inability for one to express themselves just verbally, just in general, prior to even publicly putting something out there. To understand their thoughts, process their thoughts and their feelings, to really have a true grasp as to why you feel a certain kind of way about something. And again, the ability to be open-minded, depending on the topic. That's not always the case. So it's like, we may deal with some folks who may have a racial perspective on things. No, it isn't us to have to understand them as to why they think that way they do. But aren't you a bit curious enough where it's like, if someone's going to have a stance like that, have a form of implicit bias that they share throughout the world, for one, acknowledge and know enough that in most cases they aren't aware because of their environment, because you don't know what you don't know until you're put in a place that you don't know. So a lot of the times it's all based on perspectives of what we feel comfortable in the areas that we do know. And we tend to stay there. So I think that all plays a huge role in social media and what we get on all of these platforms and what's being put out there, because everyone thinks they have the answer, and they're not willing to listen to one another enough so that we can grow, to be able to have mature conversations with folks, enough to respect an opinion, even if it's not one you entirely agree with, but you can understand, you know? So I think if we can get to a place in society where um, we can do more reasoning with one another, being willing to acknowledge one another's perspective, um, try to understand it in a way that makes sense to you enough. So, and let's be clear, there's just some things that you're just going to agree to disagree on, and that's totally fine, because that's what is a great part of our individuality in America. What the true, embodiment of freedom of speech should be. You know, you should have the ability to agree to disagree with not one another, but you should also have the wherewithal to be mature through the process of like trying to understand the power in your words, of your choice, what you say, and the effects that it has, because words do carry weight now, especially nowadays more than ever, where something you may say might get you canceled right after you said it. And a lot of the times because thoughts haven't really been put into motion
Yeah.
of expressing one's feelings because they don't know how they truly feel about things. A lot of times things are recited based on what you heard someone else say. Everything is regurgitated. Like you just said, you took the time to, with Trump's, app, you took the time to go and to educate yourself on it.
Yeah.
These are steps and healthy ways that people can go into these places that you're unfamiliar with.
Mm.
Learn the basis of what you can, and then work within a community that is experienced in different areas, whatever it may be, to have a better grasp and understanding. Because no one's one true expert of anything, because you can never know enough of something. So I think if we can get again to a place in society where we can understand those things of how to interpret it, be willing to humble ourselves enough to grow with one another rather than dictate to others completely, then we'll be in a better
Mm.
place. Honestly, I think that's what it would take.
Yeah, look, I agree. I think that's what it would take. But goddamn, I don't know if I'm gonna hold my breath for that.
The question is how, right? How do we get there?
Yeah, I
Right?
mean, look, there's a lot of growth I think in our society that we're going to need to go through, and it's going to be painful. But I think when people acknowledge, okay, we're growing together, we're building together, then I don't see that as a negative at all. I just think everybody has to get to that point where they want to grow. They want to be able to hear other opinions, even if it is, even if it does not agree with what your stance is or what you have been taught, what you've learned. I mean, now it's the opportunity to grow, right? You can still disagree after you've heard somebody else's stance on a specific topic, or maybe why they chose the life that they did. But beyond that, I think it's very important that you grow to understand, you grow to be willing to be open. Because look, there are many things that I don't know. See, there are many things I have not been able to experience. So to be able to listen to somebody who may have gone through something where they have learned from a specific thing that I may not be too fond of or agree with, I look, if I still hold my same beliefs after having that conversation, that's absolutely fine. Right. I don't I think what's going on is that we we're trying to only hear one type of voice, one set of voices, one particular type of agenda versus different types of topics that may allow us to understand from a different perspective. And when even if it isn't the case, when people feel like they're being silenced, they're going to grow to hate the other side because it's like, well, I can't even understand you more than just the noise that you're making, more than the loud terms, the type of language that you're constantly regurgitating. I can't get past that. And I don't think you could either, because there seems to be only a surface level understanding with a lot of the topics that a lot of people decide that they want to stand on, versus going into a lot of depth, hearing some stories that may be anecdotal, but at least you would get more of a perspective on certain topics, or more of a perspective from different perspectives. So I think in essence, speech in general should be free. You should be able to say what you want, what is on your mind, But then I think it gets to the other side of the topic. Should there be some form of restraint? Should there be some form of censorship that is necessary? Is there a limit on what you could say out there? We'll see. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I mean, I think restraint comes from within. I mean, everyone has instincts to where you feel you know what may be morally right or wrong to say to someone.
Sure.
Um, when you greet someone, it's as simple as greeting someone. When you meet, if I see you, Jay, and I'm like, hello, hey, good morning. Common great gesture with a smile, as opposed to just, I see you, I mug you, or I see you and say, I hate you. Imagine if someone walked up to you, hey, I hate you.
that's
Just,
like
I,
that's like Twitter come to life. It's like go
yeah, like
just
this is
saying hi.
exactly,
Yeah,
it's just as simple as that, right? It sounds
yeah,
crazy, but it's just as simple as that, where
sure,
it's a matter of self-restraint where you can't signal to cancel everyone because of what's being said, but you would hope people would use better judgment of what they're saying, which is why it's important to process your emotions and what your thoughts are before speaking it outright.
mm,
Because sometimes people know, when you say something that's a little sideways or it's going to rub people the wrong way, and the issue is not caring enough of what the ripple effects of what that looks like could be. Now, I'm not saying don't be yourself, but
sure,
be mindful. Where your opinion is what it is. It's like my religion is what it is, but I'm not going to go and say someone else's religion sucks because I may believe mine to be more superior than theirs. That's just some, for example, as being unspoken, where that's the common thought, right? But this is just something that I choose to embrace for me because it helps me to maintain in my day to day. So you see the difference of how I just deliver both of what that the interpretation of what most people would think of it, as opposed to me actually explaining why I may feel the way I feel about the religion I choose. That's just an example of a conversation most people are scared to talk about, and that's the reason why. Because it's in a matter of the delivery of what you're saying. Be mindful, put thought into it, so you understand what you're saying and how it may come across. Because ultimately, that will dictate to how people will respond to what you put out there. Now, you're gonna have people that's just gonna be hecklers because that's what some people just like to do. They like to stir the pot, and that's just what it is. But to its nature, to its core, most people who are rational enough, they would understand. May not always agree with what you're saying. I wouldn't want a world where everyone agreed with everything Will C said. I would not want a world with that. I don't agree with half the things I say or think to myself, but I process my thoughts through it so that I could try to make as much sense to myself as I can. And Jay, we were having a conversation about something prior to this recording where I said, "Hey, I just want to make sure what I'm saying is coming through is fair. I don't want it to be that I'm right. I don't want to be right or wrong. I just want to
right,
be. I want to make sure what I'm saying is understood, so I
yeah,
can process it right. I think
absolutely,
this is something that has to be required for people in general, where you process your emotions, you process your thoughts. And sometimes a good process with a close confidant. Maybe before you post something, if you think it might be something's gonna round something up, maybe have a conversation about it. See, hey, you know what? I don't know if this is something I should be talking about, but what do you think about it? Work through that so that if you do, it's about the presentation of your delivery. So a lot of the times it comes down to really just being like that, guys. So if you can kind of work on it in that way, there would be no true need to filter everything. There's some things, yeah, should be filtered because we that can be a rabbit hole to go down. But we know there's certain things out there that should be filtered, that may be something that should not be viewed by children, or things that um, we just got to be mindful of what we're feeding into our thought process,
right,
if you will, for society and for the future. So I'm really big on the thought process from that perspective, and I feel like if folks can approach a level of maturity, then in all honesty, you know what's the difference between what's morally right or wrong. So you be the judge of that for yourself, ultimately. Because at the end of the day, the truth of the matter is, people could say what they want, but you don't have to entertain it. You can leave it right where it's at. You can unfollow that person. You could
Yeah.
delete that person from your existence and never have to deal with them again. So you choose to entertain what you feel is for you, in my opinion. So I think that is in an essence of how one can handle those situations. Don't give it the attention it doesn't deserve, and it will dissipate on its own with time. That's anything.
Yep. I do agree with that. And I would say, to add on, I think one of the toughest things I had to do a couple years ago, I had, of course we all have friends, right? And it was one of my friends that I grew up with. We played sports together back in high school, and we came to this disagreement on something politically related, obviously, right? That's I think that's where the world is now. But what we were able to do is come out of the comments section that we were under, because we were just going back and forth. And I said, hey, let's come off of this. Let's discuss this. Let's come to a better understanding that isn't necessarily fueled by what's going on in the comments section. So ended up going into the DMs, had a really great conversation. We both got a much better understanding on things. And while we still disagreed at the end of the day, that was okay. And I think in our society today, a lot of people don't understand that it is okay to disagree with somebody. It is okay to not be on the same page. You let bygones be bygones. You don't take it personally. They have their perspectives. You have yours, and just carry it that way. But I don't know if I see a way forward if we're like, yo, let's ruin this person's life because he does not agree with me and I'm the guy in charge, or I'm on the side that is more popular now. Because once the tides change, and they will, then you're going to be on that other side. And then all of a sudden it is not going to be fun when you get canceled, or when you get banned, or when you get blocked. It's not going to feel right. So it's important to have dialogue. And I think that's the best place that we can leave it. We'll see. It's important to have dialogue because growth is important. It's important for all of us to grow together as a society. Look, I got to live with my neighbors every single day. And whether we agree politically or not, we're still neighbors, right? We're in a community physically where we're like, okay, we have to stick together, right? We have to make sure our lawns are kept well. We got to make sure our front doors look presentable. We have to make sure that there isn't trash littering the street, because we're living here. We're raising our families here. This is where we are. So all of a sudden, all of those things that we may have differences in does not matter, right? Because we're all after this common goal of making sure that a community stays at the level it's at. We're all on the same page when it comes to growth. So I think at the end of the day, whether it's on social media or out in person, wherever you are, I think it is important to yes, it is very important to have free speech. It's important to be able to get your opinions out there, but it's also important to grow. It's also important to understand where things stand in our society today, and know that at some point you may not have all the answers. You may not always be right. Just be open to hear other people's perspective. And look, if you still keep the same opinions that you had before, so be it. We can disagree and still go on about our day. We can still break bread. But it's important, it's very important that we do have the ability to speak. And I think as long as we are able to have that in society, we will be able to grow. We will be able to grow as a community, on the Achromous community, as well as any community out there. So I think that kind of sums it up. We'll see. Being able to have free speech, of course, with those limitations that are just based on laws that we have in our society, those will stay as they are. But I think when it comes to speaking, when it comes to understanding, when it comes to growing with each other, that's the mentality that we should have.
Yeah, I don't think I could have summed that up any better, Jay. I think it's right on the money, right where we probably need to conclude it, because we go on forever with it, right? But yeah, just taking those pointers that we share with you guys today, if you can, if it applies to any area that you feel needs improvement, or something you agreed on, or something that you thought about, or even something that we may have said you want to add on to, or in question, please definitely let us know. Reach back out and share it with us. We'd love to hear from you. And Jay, how can they reach us?
Look, for those who have been here for the very first time today on this beautiful Sunday, I want to thank you for joining us. This is episode 68. There are a hell of a lot of other episodes that we put out there, and you got a ton of gems that you can watch, you can listen to when you're driving, when you're cooking, when you're cleaning your house, whatever you're doing, you can listen to it. But for those who have been here and still do not know who we are, what we do, what we're about, let me just do you one good favor here and spell it out for you once again. Achromous. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Spotify. You can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're watching us on YouTube, I want you to do this thing once again, just in case you decided to start this video at 20 minutes instead of at the beginning. Here's what you need to do. I want you to hit that like button. I want you to hit that subscribe button, and I want you to hit that notification bell. So the next time that you hop on YouTube and you're scrolling down that feed, you will be one of the first persons in the entire world to see the newest episode of the Achromous podcast. And most of all, ladies and gentlemen,
Hey, Jay gave you 3 different tasks to do. And guess what? Each one of those tasks are free to do on YouTube. Subscribe, guys. Hit that like button. Turn on that notification bell. So all these gems that we're dropping, each and every single week, we've been giving it to you. We're going to continue to give it to you the best we can. And let us know that you appreciate what you're getting for free while it's free.
while it is, it ain't going to be much longer, let me tell you. While it is there, you guys should hop on it. And I say that to say this because there's a lot of noise out there, right? There's a lot of information out there. I mentioned during this episode that, look, there are over 1 million different other podcasts out there. So if you were able to find us by digging through, we're glad you've been able to listen. We hope you come back once again. But I gotta say, man, all of this is very draining. It is draining on my mind. It is draining in my spirit. It is draining on the emotions. Not necessarily to put this out there because we love doing this every single week. We wouldn't do it if we didn't, because be quite honest, we're not getting paid to do this, right? We're doing this right now because we want our community to grow. We want to deliver a different perspective that you may have not heard of out there in society today or on any other podcast that you've listened to. But I think it is important to understand that being on this media platform, being in media in general, even when we're talking about the mainstream media, it could affect your health. It could affect your mental health specifically. So on episode 69, I love that number, episode 69 of the Achromous podcast, we're going to dive into exactly how the mainstream media can affect your mental health. You do not want to miss that episode, especially if you have been tuning into the news every single day for many, many years of your life. And I know a lot of you have. It is important to listen to this episode because there are things that are going on in your mind and with your emotions that you may not be aware of. And I think the first step to being able to grow is to be aware of your situation. So next week, episode 69, next Sunday on the Achromous podcast, we want you to join us. We're going to explain how the mainstream media can affect your mental health.
We know how big mental health is. So if it's as important to you as it is to myself and Jay, we're expecting you to tune in on this one, guys. And we're going to really get into it and see about how we can discuss it and ways that we can work through those moments where it's getting the best of us.
Absolutely. We'll see. Now, look, for the rest of this, we want you to stay blessed. We want you to stay humble. We want you to keep growing. We want you to converse, have conversations with your friends, with your enemies, with people you don't agree with, and with people you do. We want you to talk because that's how we grow. So until next Sunday, it's your boy, J.H. Gibbons.
And we'll see.
Peace.